This is the Amy Edwards Show.
I make a deal with myself. I say, okay, I don't want to exercise. I know I have to. I know if I don't exercise today, I'm not going to exercise harder tomorrow. So I'm going to go and work out for 10 minutes. If at the end of those 10 minutes, I still feel the same, that's it. I'm going to stop, grab a shower, go to bed. However, this is what happens. At the end of those 10 minutes, my mood has changed, my heartbeat is up, my blood temperature is up, my muscles are warmer, and we know something else now, and this is where the science bit comes in. We know that if our muscles work for any length of time, usually between 8 and 10 minutes, they actually produce a particular type of hormone which activates the reward system in the brain. So we get an increased dose of dopamine and serotonin. And what neurotransmitters do, the combination of them, is it allows them to dampen down the signal of discomfort which the exercise produces, and it enables us to continue doing what we're doing. And there's a logic to that which comes from an ancient survival mechanism. In the distant past, when did we have to do 8 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes of exercise? Usually when we're running for our life or when we are running for our food.
Yeah.
And so usually when you work out for 8 to 10 minutes, what happens? You get tired. So your body sends a signal to the brain, says, hey, I'm tired, I'm running low on energy, I need to replenish. The brain says, oh, why don't you take a break? However, in that context, if you take a break, you become food or you don't have food. And both of those outcomes are not ideal.
No.
So the mechanism is there, that the moment you work out for 8 to 10 minutes, the brain says, okay, you need to do this, obviously. So let's dampen down the discomfort you feel so you don't feel it as much anymore. So now it's no big deal. And let's give you a buzz so you continue doing what you're doing.
Hello, and welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards, and I am very excited because we're going to talk to somebody who is multifaceted today, which I resonate with. You know what? We don't have to all fit in one particular thing. We can be broadly educated, and I love that, right? Wide range of knowledge, because it can serve us in so many different ways. So today we're welcoming David Amerland. He is a deep-thinking, mind-expanding author, speaker, and behavior strategist who helps people connect the dots between human behavior and longevity and conscious living. That sounds like us here. So he has a background in quantum dynamics and decades of experience in marketing and semantic search, and now focuses on how we can become more resilient, intentional, and strong mentally, physically, and emotionally. He's the author of over a dozen books, including The Sniper Mind, International, and the latest is called Built to Last: How to Get Stronger, Healthier, and Happier at Any Stage of Life, which is kind of what I'm all about on this podcast. So yes, it's a practical guide for building momentum and well-being, especially as we age. And David's written for Forbes, Inc., Medium, and many more, and known for experimenting with his own fitness and mindset as a self-proclaimed Derby, I hope I'm saying that right, lab rat. And whether he's writing about trust, behavior, or how to defy entropy, David is always exploring how we can live more intentionally and fully. And today he's here to show us exactly how to do that, which I am so on board with, David. The older I get, the more I want to be built to last. And I love that title so much. So welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, you're right. We all want that. And actually, we can have it. This is the thing about it.
Tell me everything. Tell me more. Like, what even inspired that title? Were you just feeling like that in your own life? Like, I want to be built to last. I want to, because there's a self-building, right? We're building ourselves, really. It's
Absolutely.
It's kind of a work that we do on ourselves, the building.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing about writing about fitness. I've been active in the field of fitness. I've been physically active since 13, and I'm 60 now, so it's been a 47-year journey.
Cool.
Those 47,
60, I wouldn't have guessed. That's awesome.
Thank you. And in those 47 years, I haven't actually spent a single day when I haven't done something physical. I've done martial arts all my life. I've got the black belt in 2 different styles. I'm a certified Taekwondo instructor. I competed internationally. For both in Britain and abroad. And I've also got a black belt in karate. So basically, when it came to fitness and people used to ask me, what should I do to get fit? My immediate answer to that is, how should I know? Because we're all different. And what works for one person will not work for the other person because of all those differences. At the same time, there's a lot of similarity in our makeup. There are a lot of things in our neurobiology which drive us, which are common to everybody. So when it came to writing the book and coming up with the title, it was a long process, and it came out of COVID and questions and answers which I had with a friend. We're training together, and we're both constrained at home. We're sort of training in our home gyms. And out of those long discussions, the book arose. And then I went digging deeper, as in, why is fitness so hard? When we have access to information, we have access to equipment, we have access to knowledge. And that access is so easy to actually sort of get into. And the fundamentals of what I found as I went digging actually showed me that, yes, we are built to last. And there are things we can do which will help us and activate our inner mechanics, which allow us to actually have a long, healthy life. But at the same time, it's not automatic. We are hardwired for something a little bit different, which trips us up. So that's what I went digging for, and that's what I discovered.
What are we hardwired for that's tripping us up?
Well, we are hardwired. Well, everything which we are today was forged a long time ago. And we have basically a brain and a body, and they're both very complex, but at the same time, they're very, very simple. This is what the brain does. It predicts the next moment. Why does it do that? Because if it can predict the next moment accurately, then it can guide our behavior and ensure our survival. And out of that simple kind of guideline, what do we create? We create civilizations and traditions and rules and laws and trust and everything else which is sort of tangible and intangible, which allows us to get into information, which ensures that kind of predictability, which allows us to guarantee our safety. And we have more or less achieved that, right? I mean, in the civilized, in most parts of the world, we can exit our house in the morning fairly confident that nothing bad is going to happen to us. And we have achieved that. It's a huge achievement. So what does the body do in that context? The body is an adaptive machine. It's designed to adapt to its environmental pressures, everything that it feels in the outside environment, and change to allow us to operate in that environment. So if you and I were living in Norway or Sweden, we'd adapt to colder climates, we'd adapt to climbing steep hills every day. And if we lived like 100 years ago, our everyday life would be digging and climbing and lifting and sort of walking long distances on an incline, and would be aerobically fit, and would be lean, and would be strong, and would be healthy. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go to today. Same body, same drives, same guidelines. What do we do? Most of the day we stare at screens. Most of the day we have an abundance of calories within easy reach. And we have an additional tripwire which holds us back. And we know this from anthropological studies of the few surviving isolated tribes in the world today, primarily in the Amazon, but also in Borneo, I think, where they are as close as you can get to the hunter-gatherers communities of the past or societies of the past. And they are very active. They walk on average 19,000 steps a day. So they're lean and they're fit and they're healthy. They don't suffer from cardiovascular diseases. And what do they do when they don't do all the things which they have to do in their everyday life? Nothing. They don't do anything. They don't go lifting rocks to get heavier or swinging the machetes around to get faster or perform, improving their technique. They absolutely do nothing because their body is hardwired to conserve energy. That's how you survive. You survive in any kind of environment by making sure that you spend less energy doing the everyday tasks you do than you actually get in from the food which you're going to consume. And we have that. So there's a natural inhibition to any kind of physical activity. Why? Because it's a stressor. And why is it a stressor? Well, it's a stressor for the body, which means it's also a stressor for the brain. But at the same time, contextually, it's an unnecessary stressor. We don't need it for our everyday survival. I've been training all my life. I have a gym at home. It's about 25 paces away from where I'm sitting right here. And I know I'm going to have to finish this and go and train for an hour. And at the back of my brain, there's this little voice that says, it's been a long day. I'm tired. I've got emails to answer. Tomorrow's going to be an even busier day. And why don't just put it off today? All these logical things. But that logic comes from that voice which says, oh, you shouldn't exert yourself if you don't have to. And we all tend to listen to it. Yeah. So when we...
Yeah, I know. I struggle with that voice. But I'm at my best when I actually lift weights, go to the gym, all that. And I went through a stretch where I wasn't because I was letting that voice get to me. But I literally have to just not think. That's my trick. I just refuse to think. I'm like, I'm not even going to think about all the reasons why or why not. I'm like, and then I just go like a robot and I do it.
Well, that's a smart technique because this is what you've done.
Thank God. It's working. It's working. Well, yeah, I know that much.
Because what you're doing is you're shutting down the conversation with your brain. So you're not giving the chance for your brain to tell you, hey, there's a stressor coming up. I can see it's going to come up. I know you don't have to do it. I know it's not necessary for your survival. And well, why don't you put it off today? So you're not listening to that at all because you're not giving it the opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, you're very disciplined.
Well, don't give me too much credit. It wins some days. Some days it does win. I'll start thinking, I'm like, it's been too late. Well, but it's a key. It's a trick. It's a trick. Yeah, it's a hack.
Okay, I'm going to give you another one, which actually works.
Great.
Science
great. And yes, please.
And for most people listen to that voice, and I, like I said, I feel the same reticence to actually go and exercise.
Well, we're all normal. This is great. Yeah. It's confirming that you're not a failure because you're
absolutely yes. and here's how I get around it, and I use science on this. I make a deal with myself. I say, okay, I don't want to exercise. I know I have to. I know if I don't exercise today, I'm not going to exercise harder tomorrow. So I'm going to go and work out for 10 minutes. And I put a stopwatch on my watch, 10 minutes flat. And what usually happens, I say, okay, if at the end of those 10 minutes, I still feel the same, that's it. I'm going to stop, grab a shower, go to bed. However, this is what happens. At the end of those 10 minutes, my mood has changed, my heartbeat is up, my blood temperature is up, my muscles are warmer, and we know something else now, and this is where the science bit comes in. We know that if our muscles work for any length of time, usually between 8 and 10 minutes, they actually produce a particular type of hormone which activates the reward system in the brain, so we get an increased dose of dopamine and serotonin. And what those two neurotransmitters do, the combination of them, is it allows them to dampen down the signal of discomfort which the exercise produces, and it enables us to continue doing what we're doing. And there's a logic to that which comes from an ancient survival mechanism. Wow. In the distant past, when did we have to do 8 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes of exercise? Usually when we're running for our life or when we are running for our food.
Yeah.
And
usually chasing.
So usually when you work out for 8 to 10 minutes, what happens? You get tired. So your body sends a signal to the brain, says, hey, I'm tired, I'm running low on energy, I need to replenish. The brain says, oh, why don't you take a break? However, in that context, if you take a break, you become food or you don't have food. And both of those outcomes are not ideal.
No.
So the mechanism is there that the moment you work out for 8 to 10 minutes, your brain says, okay, you need to do this, obviously. So let's dampen down the discomfort you feel so you don't feel it as much anymore. So now it's no big deal. And let's give you a buzz so you continue doing what you're doing. So that works every time.
It's so accurate too. I feel so good when I do it. I'm trying to trick myself also to just remember that. Remember how good you feel when you're done? And I do, I'm dancing, I'm happy. It's wild. Today I went to the gym, and one of my keys for working out is having my music, headphones, whatever I'm listening to, podcast. And I showed up and I didn't have my headphones with me. I guess I charged them or something, didn't have them. And I was like, I'm not going to make it through this workout today. So I was like, okay, I'll just get on the treadmill for 10 minutes. Let's just walk and stare out the window. And so I did, and they had music playing. And you know what? I ended up doing my entire workout I did my whole circuit. I did 30 minutes on an incline. I did the whole thing. And I was like, huh, so it just proves your point. Like there's something going on that's chemically keeping me going. That is, thank God, like if we can just do it. It's the same as that 5-minute rule, like anything that you're holding yourself back on working on it for 5 minutes, and most likely you're going to go longer, which could be connected to something, brain chemicals as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, everything that we see in our behavior is countenanced by specific neurochemical states. So the brain chemistry changes, which means that the way the brain operates changes, and that allows us to actually do what we think we have to do. So, when we talk about grit, perhaps, or willpower, or discipline, those things, they don't really exist as such.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. We have yeah. Wow. Because it's interesting. Now, so from my perspective, we should stop using them because they also come with a judgmental subtext. So, somebody who doesn't train or doesn't do this, has no willpower, and we think, okay, you're weak, or you're, something wrong with you, or you're not disciplined enough. And it's none of those things. What it is always is it's two things. It's our perception of what we're doing and what we're going to get from it, and the energetic cost involved. And I'll explain both of those things, but before I do, I'll explain motivation, because motivation is neurochemical. Essentially, motivation, our willingness to do something, is always activated when we feel a state where we're not happy in that state, and that is in our brain expressed through the accumulation of specific neurotransmitters, which build up a negative ion charge. And when the charge reaches a certain threshold, we feel very uncomfortable, and then the neurons fire, and boom, we take action. So if we're really thirsty and somebody puts a glass of water in front of us, and we're extremely thirsty, and an hour goes by, and 2 hours go by, a discomfort level rises, and when it reaches a particular threshold, we're going to reach for that glass of water. We can't stop ourselves. So that's motivation. So every time we do something, we are going from a perceptual state where we think things are not so great for us, and we go through a process which will take us to a better state. And our understanding of where we are and where we're going makes that process acceptable to us and the cost of it manageable. So if we're going to, for instance, if we feel that we need to prepare for competition in a sort of sports context, it's really important for us. So now the discomfort of training really hard, really long hours for a very long time to get to the desired level where we can actually compete is not so bad, because what is really important for us is to actually be able to be on that stage, to take part in the competition, because we have linked it emotionally from where we are going to feel better about ourselves. So that is how motivation works at a neurochemical level. We can dress it up with nice words and say, I feel this, I feel that, but essentially that's what it is. So now, in that context, how do we factor in willpower and how do we factor in discipline? And what is willpower? Willpower is essentially our ability to do something consistently, day after day. And discipline is to be able to do it over a long period of time. So willpower is essentially the plan we put in and the steps we break everything down in so it becomes accessible. If it becomes accessible, we will do it. If it doesn't become accessible, because we're kind of winging it, every day we go in and we sort of, let's take training, because we're talking about fitness. So let's say you go to the gym and you haven't got a set routine. So every time you get there, what do you need to do? First of all, you need to get there. Energetically costly, right? Because you have to budget your time, deal with the traffic, find parking, get changed, get into the gym itself. Secondly, you now have to work out what to do. So you stand around looking, what am I going to do? And on a good day, you can do this. But on a day when you're tired, and a day when you're stressed, and a day when it's cold outside, and you have to sort of navigate the streets and the roads and everything, get in the gym, and now you have to work out what you're going to do. And you're not sure you're going to get it right, because you're not the expert. You're not sure it's going to give you the outcome you expect, because you haven't really thought about it. Okay, the energetic cost now of that activity is really high. And what are we inclined to do? The opposite, not do it, because we feel it's difficult. So willpower is that process which breaks things down. Now, if we now put a structure on that willpower and we say, okay, here are the steps, here's my gym routine, here are the days when I'm going to do it. And on those days, my gym bag is packed. I have my playlist on my phone, my headphones are charged, and I have allocated the necessary time. Okay, that's the structure around that. That's your discipline, because that enables you to do it again and again and again. So planning and structure, process and structure, that's willpower, that's discipline.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you're saying those don't work. So, right? Like willpower and discipline. That's how we got to this subject, right? You were talking about those were not the things that we can consistently rely on.
Well, we consider willpower and discipline mental attributes, and they're actually physical or practical ones. Willpower is a process, and discipline is a structure around it that allows the process to be repeated again and again with ease, so it doesn't cost us a lot energetically.
I like thinking of it like that, and then you're just setting yourself up for success every time, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about entropy. That's such a unusual word, I don't think it gets used a lot. There was a movie back in the 90s, I think, that was called Entropy. And so can you define it and then talk about, how we're working against that?
In the broadest sense, entropy is the propensity of anything to degrade unless work is done, right? Let's take our homes. Let's say we do nothing to them. We bought a house, we do absolutely nothing. We don't clean it, we don't maintain it, we don't paint it, we don't add anything to it. 10 years later, after we bought it, that house is a wreck. Why? Because things degrade naturally. Our bodies degrade in the same way. Why? Because the energy which consists, or rather the energy which is locked into our structure, tends to dissipate unless we actually do some kind of work to make sure it doesn't. And more than that, to make sure it goes the other way. So we actually build something up. So, you don't just maintain your house, you actually do house improvements where you change particular rooms, you change the structure, you add something, you take something else away, and it becomes better than what it originally was.
What's the opposite word of entropy? What's the opposite word?
Order.
Order?
I suppose. Yeah. Or structure.
Structure?
I mean, because structure essentially is an ordered building or something which has locked in energy, and it requires energy to maintain that structure, whatever that is.
Yeah. I know that makes sense. And I just, this is such a good conversation to have right now too, especially with your book. I feel like it's what everyone's talking about, longevity, 80 is the new, or 100 is the new 80 or whatever it is. How are you viewing that and looking at people like Brian Johnson even?
I mean, he spends an enormous amount of money.
He does.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. And he's an unusual cat, for sure. Somebody's got to do it though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, but somebody's got
I think here's what it is, right? And he spends an enormous amount of money without actually having to do that, but he can, so he does, right? Mm-hmm. So he does the easiest thing possible for him. What does he do? He spends his money, and within that money now he's locked into specific processes, and he has the structure around those processes to maintain them, right? So there's his willpower, and there's his discipline. Mm-hmm. And it's backed by and he spends about $2 million a month, I think. Okay, so
a month? Wow. Yeah. Wow. But that's intense.
We don't have to do that. We don't, I mean, our bodies are willing to adapt provided we create the right signal. So let's say how we should be doing it. Well, and most of us don't have access to a lot of money or easy money or access to a lot of expertise we can buy in. We can't bring experimental drugs, we can't bring experimental doctors or processes or anything. However, nature here actually helps us. The body is a highly adaptive machine, and in order to adapt, it needs a strong enough signal which would allow it to allocate and budget the necessary energy for that change which needs to happen. So if you want to be faster, for instance, what does the body must do? It needs to build up capillaries, it needs to strengthen the heart muscle, it needs to strengthen the cardiovascular system, it needs to enrich the muscles, the particular muscles you're going to be using with oxygen. It needs to strip down the muscles we're not using, so you're going to become sleeker because it's going to allocate energy to break down protein in parts of the body which you're not using them for the activity you want, so they don't burden us with an excess amount of oxygen demand. And there you go. You're going to become a marathon runner. They're sleek, they're thin, they're strong within the context of their sport, and they're capable of running forever without tiring, pretty much. You want to go the other way. You want to become super fast, and you can become a sprinter. Now you need strong muscles for explosiveness. You need fast-twitch action fiber. You don't need to be aerobically fit necessarily, because it's not really an aerobic sport. It's only about 10 seconds long. You can do it in one breath. However, you do need to be healthy, so you will build up some kind of aerobic capacity within that. And again, the signal needs to be there. But if we take that into the context of us on an everyday basis, well, what do you need to do? You need to feel happy in your body. You need to feel in control. You need to feel that you can do whatever you want in your body for as long as you want. And as you age, you don't want to lose that feeling. So how do we build that? How do we build it? Well, we build it. In my book, I say, if we had a therapist, a chef, and a personal trainer shadowing us throughout our lives, would be perfect. We don't have those, right? So we need to become those. And in order to become those, we need to put in consistent, daily, small steps. So if you want to become fitter in the long term, you need more daily activity. You think, oh, gym, all in or nothing. No. How about a 10-minute walk every day? But you do it every day. At the end of the week, that's 70 minutes of exercise. At the end of the year, it's about 3,200 hours or something like that. It's really some big number. So, it's impossible for your body not to change if you are actually giving it a consistent signal. If you want to become stronger, do push-ups. If you do 10 push-ups a day, you think, okay, that's nothing, right? It takes me about a minute, tops. Yes, but that's 70 a week again. That's like 280 a month. That's like 3,200 a year. It's impossible for your body not to change if you just do that one tiny exercise, nothing else. So by putting in place these smart practices where we send to our body a consistent signal for adaptations we want to achieve, then the body is inclined to send the right signal to the brain sends the signal back because it's a bi-directional kind of conversation. The allocation of resources is carried out, and then we become stronger, or become fitter, we become more durable, become more flexible, whatever it is we're actually setting our mind to do within the context of our own understanding of what we want to achieve with our fitness.
I think we tend to, I don't know if it's underestimate or underestimate the power of just those smaller things that we can do consistently. Like, what is it in our brain that makes us not do that? We build it up to this bigger thing that we have to do. I know I've done it, or I've seen people do it, right? And you build it up like, no, I have to go to the gym for an hour, and really while you're watching TV, you could do your push-ups or whatever, every single day. And we make it, what is it in our brain? Why do we do that to ourselves when it can be so much simpler?
I'm so glad you asked that.
Great.
We all, without exception, have a negative voice in our head. And the reason we have a negative voice in our head is because if we build up a scenario of about 10,000 years ago, a couple of cavemen come out of the caves, it's a beautiful day. One of them says to his friend, he says, why don't we go over those mountains in the distance and see what's on the other side? And his friend says, yeah, you crazy? We don't know what kind of animals we're going to meet on the way, how many hostile tribes are between the mountains and us, where we're going to get food, where we're going to sleep for the night. It's way too dangerous. But his friend is really excited. And he goes off and does it and explores the mountains and never comes back. And the one who survives is the one who actually had a little negative self-talk holding him back. So now we all end up with a negative self-talk in our brain, which tells us...
Our survival mechanism. There you go.
Well, exactly. From the past, right?
Yeah.
Which tells us, oh, you can't do this. Or, what you're proposing is not going to work. Or, you don't know what you're doing there. You're just not good enough for this. Whatever layer of logic the brain applies to stop us from wanting to do what we want to do. And all we have to say is, okay, I understand where that comes from, but this is what I'm going to try. I'm going to do 10 minutes walk. I'm going to do 10 push-ups a day. And that's all I'm going to do. And every time we do that, we are pleasantly surprised by the changes we see. And they become the first step towards way bigger changes, because suddenly we realize we have that power over our body to change how we are. From all the animals on the planet, we're the only ones who can actually rewire our brain and change our body. You get a leopard, it's pretty fast, or a cheetah, fastest mammal on Earth, on land. Okay, it's never going to be more speedy than what actually is. This is the top speed, and this is the only thing it's designed to do. It can go from 0 to 60 in so many seconds over a set distance. It will never run a marathon. What can humans do? We can sprint 100 meters at a pathetic speed compared to a cheetah, admittedly, but we can also run marathons. We can live at the top of a mountain, and there are tribes in the Polynesian islands which dive deeper than 20 meters, and they can hold their breath for up to 12 minutes or 15 minutes at a time, because they have different adaptations in the way their lungs exchange carbon dioxide for oxygen in their body. So they are resistant to the carbon dioxide response, which allows them or forces them to take a breath. So they can hold their breath way longer. So we can actually do those things. And we're unique in that environment. So we have that power. And the moment we realize that, then we need to think, okay, what can we do? Let's try. Ultimately, the only expert on us is us. So by experimenting, we find out what we're good at, we find out what we can't do, we find out what gives us difficulties. We settle that and say, okay, where do I need to go? Why do I want to do that? And with a clearer understanding of the why, then we begin to apportion the emotional energy, the focus, which leads us to what we want to achieve.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned that earlier too about, you can't answer that for the other person or for anyone what's right for them, which is both good and bad, right? Because many times we would just want the answer, just tell me what to do, but then on the flip side, we have the freedom to answer it for ourselves and find what works for us. So it's like good and bad, I think. But yeah, but for yourself, you've been your own experiment, right? And
absolutely.
you're self-proclaimed like lab rat for yourself. So can you tell me like some of those experiments and like how they fit in with all that you've learned and are able to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is what I do. I follow all the studies, first of all, to see what and we're constantly learning new things about the way the body works with the brain.
I'm a big fan of just like the concept of experiments with yourself too. Like I always tell people on this podcast, don't get too wrapped up in doing this for the rest of your life. Like try it and see how it goes. Consider it an experiment. See how you feel, so sorry.
No, that's fine. And absolutely, I absolutely love what you're saying, because that is solid advice. Everybody feels that, they need to fit into some kind of externally received performance parameters in order to actually get fitter. And this is not true. You need to define for yourself, what does fitness mean for you? Is it, living a long, healthy life, being able to be around with your grandkids, being able to run around with your children, being able to compete at a relatively high level for your age, whatever it is. The moment you work it out, this is what you're actually doing. You're making a strong emotional connection. And if we go back to our discussion when we first opened up about competitors, if you're in a state where you're not really happy, but you have an emotional connection to get to a state where you're going to be happier, well, that's your motivation. And if you have your motivation and you really want to do it, so you're highly motivated, what do you need to do now? Make it easy for yourself. Create the process. That's your willpower. And then what do you have to do? Create a structure which allows you to basically repeat that process again and again and again without too much effort. And that's your discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So I experiment with myself all the time within that context, because my life changes. It's as hectic as everybody else's. Unforeseen things happen all the time. I'm as subject to stress as everybody else. And stress really unfocuses us. So I refine those things every time I meet an obstacle to what I'm doing. I remove it. And I'll give you an example of this, a direct example to see how I approach it. To exercise, I don't need a gym. I don't need equipment.
Yeah.
I don't really need anything, right? I know how to move my body. I know how to work it. I know how to put together a really comprehensive plan which will give me what I need for whether it's strength or speed or aerobic capacity without anything else. However, at home, I have a fully equipped gym. It has all the equipment in it. It has treadmills and ellipticals and weight machines and everything else, right? And the reason I have that is because on some days when I'm exhausted by life, by work, I go to the gym. I don't need to think about creating a plan like that. I'm going to get on the elliptical. I'm going to work out for an hour. I'm going to be listening to music. I'm working on my aerobic capacity. I'm working my arms and my legs and my arms and my core. And that's it. It's done. So I've created that easy path for me by removing that obstacle, which would have been, okay, at the end of the day, now I need to put together something, and now I need to motivate myself to go through that. And it's going to be out of necessity a little bit harder because I don't have equipment, so I need to push myself harder in order to achieve some of the elements which machines make easier. And I removed it. I'll have the elliptical, and maybe I'll use it once a month or twice a month, and you think, okay, is that good use for the money you invested? Absolutely, because on those days, I wouldn't have exercised adequately. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the running machine, same thing with the treadmill. And I have a curved treadmill, which allows, it has an incline. It's manual. It doesn't actually have a motor. So I have to power it. And that forces me to, when I do it, whether I'm walking or running, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. It's actually a little bit harder. But again, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to plan it. I don't have to put in the speed. I just have to put in the distance. It does give me speed when I want it. And it makes that bit of it easier for me. So that's how we approach things which are difficult for us energetically. We think, okay, how can we optimize the process? How can we make things easier by removing the barriers? And
I experienced that exact thing. Sorry to interrupt you. I experienced that exact thing recently with my own fitness. Like I couldn't find my groove. I couldn't find what was working for me. I used to have a workout that I really enjoyed, and I felt like as I had aged, I'm in my 50s now, and I have a knee injury from many years ago, and so I just felt like I couldn't run sprints. I couldn't do the things that I had done. I wanted to walk, and I just couldn't find my groove of what was going to make it easier that I could just go in and do. And it took me time. It took me like giving myself some space around it, which I didn't really like, but I finally found it. Like I finally found like the intervals that I enjoy that really work me and stuff like that. So, I think people can give themselves a little bit of grace around it, right? Like, have you had to do that sometimes too, or had experiences when you were working out to kind of like, you know what, I've got to recalibrate a little bit and give myself some time to figure out what's working?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought it up. And you don't look 50. You don't look 50.
Thank
you. Okay, but
that's what we're going for here, David, is it not? I mean, that's why we're here.
Exactly. Okay, but let's talk about this. We are open systems. We discussed entropy before. We are not a closed system. Our bodies are in constant dialogue with the environment. The environment around us constantly changes, the temperatures, the noise levels, the environmental air quality, the pathogens that are around us, the stress that we actually subject ourselves to, both from the inside and outside in terms of what we do, what's demanded of us. All those things, they're in constant flux. So because of that, if we are to take a snapshot of our bioenergetic profile, our capability or our ability to perform to a certain level on any given day is going to be different. And here's the difficult part. If you're a woman, it's even harder.
Yeah.
Because your body changes every day of the month because your hormonal profile is different. So if you're a guy, you'll have it a little bit easier because we're a little bit more stable because We don't have to go through a menstrual cycle. We don't have to all those hormones changing and fluctuating, but women do. And it makes it that much harder. And this is why, even to this day, there's this contention. Should women train like guys? And the answer to this is no, they should train even smarter. So listen to your body, listen to your moods, recalibrating things all the time is a really good thing to do. If you're stressed out, for instance, which is a mental strain, the brain uses ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. It's the same energy that we use for our muscles. If we lift weights, if we run, we use ATP. If we're stressed out, we're thinking about something, worrying about something, we use ATP. There's only so much energy allocated to us during the day. So if you had a difficult thing to go through mentally, or if we're still struggling with it, let's say we have 10 units of energy, we used up 4 instead of 2. Now we only have 6 to play around with. So we go to the gym and we say, well, I've been sitting around all day and just can't seem to perform well. I can't get into it. Well, no, you're tired. You've been burning up ATP all day, dealing with something internal, and now you're expecting your body to perform like it's never had a care in the world. It's not going to happen. So this kind of awareness, you mentioned grace. Absolutely. We should be kind to ourselves. A lot of the times the negative voice kicks in. You're terrible at this, you shouldn't be doing this, you're pushing yourself too hard, whatever. They want you to stop. Okay, don't stop. Don't listen to the voices. Be kind to yourself and say, I'm having a day off or an off day. That's fine. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show up, do what I can. I'll take that as a win. We turn that potential defeat into a victory, a small victory.
I love that. I love redefining your wins.
Yeah. And if we have sufficient small wins in the long run, they make us feel capable of dealing with anything, because our perception changes. Our perception of how we feel on a bad day. So, okay, this is normal. I'm going to add something here. When I was writing The Sniper Mind, which is about decision making, I interviewed 100 active and retired snipers. I talked to neuroscientists who had examined their brain signature.
Wow.
And when they're on active duty, I then talked to elite combatants from special forces, and they're highly trained, they're really motivated, and they have days when they can't perform. And this is what I say, it's normal. You're going through this, but you can do it. So adapt, do what you can, overcome the issues you face, don't beat yourself up about it, and move on to the next day. And if they're the pinnacle of human performance in many ways, so if they're having bad days, if there are things which they think they can't do on a particular day, even though they've trained for them and they've done them before, they give themselves that grace. They say, okay, this is what it is. I'm going to work with what I have, and I'm going to come back to it. And I think that's a really powerful message for us to take away.
Very much so. So what about the experiments that you've done on yourself, or what are you doing right now experimenting on yourself?
I've been through, very recently, for the last 3 months, I've been through a strength training program, which I put on for myself. One of the things which we lose as we age, according to science, to generic science, is fast twitch action fiber. It says, you slow down. And this has been the conventional wisdom, that as you age, you lose speed because your body is not as capable of building up those particular muscle fibers which give you that explosiveness. And we really need those. People who over 65 tend to fall. They tend to fall for 2 reasons. The first reason they fall because the reason why they fall is because they don't have those twitch action fibers, which are the reactive force. So you stumble, your immediate reaction is to try and recover. You need that reactive kind of energy in your muscles. You don't have it. If you don't have it, then your body tends to overbalance. If you overbalance, now you need an excess of strength to bring you back to your center of gravity. You don't have the excess of strength because you haven't done sufficient strength training, and you fall. You take a fall, usually, some kind of hip bone, hip break is involved, or arm break. The moment you break a bone, immobility kicks in, things go on a really not a very good spiral. So I've been looking at ways to actually build fast twitch action fiber. I found a study done in Japan, which has the largest number of non-Nigerians. They did it in the year 2012. And it took somebody, ambitiously, I thought, who was age 95, and they put him through a 3-year training course, which was highly structured, and they had to improve their sprint time over 60 yards.
Wait,
So
you had a 90-year-old sprinting?
95-year-old sprinting.
You had a 95-year-old sprinting? What am I talking about that I can't sprint anymore? Okay.
Well, exactly. That's
and
what
they
I
did
thought.
it? They did
it.
this?
They actually, over 3 years, they were
I'm
98,
scared.
right? They're
Oh my
98. And they improved their speed over 60 yards. And you think, okay, if they can do it at age 95, for
What was
sure
their
we
speed?
can.
What was their speed? I had to
They started out at 60 yards and took them 12 seconds. And they were able to bring it down to just under 11 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be for me. Okay.
It's pretty fast. It's actually pretty fast. Yeah. So,
Okay.
Sorry. So you think, okay, if they can do it at 95, for sure we can do it. And the difference is that they can't do it quickly, right? There had to be a structured 3-year program to give them sufficient strength training, sufficient recovery time, and sufficient nutrition. And if we're talking about, building ourselves up, what do we need? We need 4 things, basically, but 3 are absolutely key. We need good nutrition in the food we eat, so it's actually nutritious for us. It's not too high in processed foods, too high in sugars, too high in salts, all those things which we love the taste of and actually undermine our health. We need specific training, whether it is speed or we need exercise, right? But if it's sport specific or outcome specific, it has to be for that. So if you're looking for strength, you need the weights. If you're looking for speed, you need something else. If you're looking for to run distance, you need to do cardiovascular training. Mm-hmm. And then we need sufficient good quality sleep. So we need those 3 things, and they're absolutely key for our physical health. Mm-hmm. And for if our physical health is good, our mental health tends to be better. But for really good mental health, we need one more thing. We need socializing. And this is not being a party animal. It's actually, it's good quality connections with people who are actually meaningful in their interactions with you. And the reason we need that is because the brain is so complex that it can't actually self-diagnose. It can't self-calibrate. So we use our interactions with the external world, with people we trust, people who make us feel good, to recalibrate the baseline of our brain so that we are mentally stable, emotionally stable. So we need that.
We really have
those.
Yes.
Yeah. If we have those 4 things, we can just keep on going, provided we don't lose focus, we don't fall off the wagon, as in, I'm not going to exercise for a day, and that day becomes a month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting to me too. You talk a lot about, humans from way back, and I think that we have a misconception about them. I have a friend who read a book. I didn't read this book, but I read a book and was telling me about what they were like back then, and they were exactly like us. And I was like, no, exactly, like told jokes and laughed and talked like this. And he was like, yeah, exactly like us. And I'm like, that's 10,000 years ago. That's such a trip to me to think that I'm assuming would you say that's accurate?
It is. We have this view of the past. Because we're the pinnacle of our time right now, we tend to think that the past is kind of somehow inferior. And sure, it's technologically inferior compared to us. But from their perspective, whichever point in history we take, they're the absolute pinnacle of human achievement. And not only that, but they have, within the context of their ability to understand how to use the materials that they had at hand, they were able to do things which we can't quite replicate today. And I'll give you an example. If you take concrete, which is amazing because it allows us to build our cities and pave our roads and create our civilization, and if you put that concrete in the sea, it gets eroded. Salt gets in the microcracks, so the microcracks become larger, salt crystals begin to form, and concrete begins to degrade. So a concrete block left in the sea on its own would probably last 15, 20 years tops. The Romans were able to build piers in the sea out of concrete, which was self-healing. So when microcracks developed, they healed. And the concrete piers of the Romans still stand today in the sea. And they're not 25 years old, they're hundreds of years old. And we didn't know how they did it until very recently, using the absolute top spectrography or technological advancement of our time to actually study how they were actually able to do it. And they were able to work it out, and we couldn't until today, or very recently.
Wow.
So,
Yes, we don't give ourselves enough credit, right? Like,
mind-blowing, right?
It is mind-blowing. Yeah. Every time I learn a fact like that or something and we don't know how they did it, it's always just like, wow, we're smart, you know? And I mean, like, not me in particular, because if somebody was like, go build a pier, I don't even know where I would begin. But, you know, humans in general, so is who I'm talking about. Let's talk about your mental fitness too, because you seem very mentally resilient. And what do you teach others about the first steps to take in that? Or like, what do you do in particular to continue to grow your own mental fitness and resilience?
Okay, I do two things. The first thing is I never stop learning. And because I never stop learning, I always feel stupid all the time because you're always learning new things.
That's so good, right? They say if you're the smartest person in the room, get in a new room, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the more you learn, the more you realize that you know so little. And you challenge your brain to understand. And every time I look at a new study or something which I'm not familiar with, you know, no joke, I feel really stupid because I'm reading it, I understand the words, and I don't understand what they mean. And then I have to go back and read it and then think about it and go and look up other things, and then it begins to make sense. So the first thing is learn, right? And to learn, you need to be curious. If you're curious, you're childlike. If you're childlike, I think it's amazing. And the second thing, which I do, and this is strategic, I make sure that I control as much of my environment as I can control. And what
does that mean exactly? What does that mean exactly? Like your gym situation, probably?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, start from the basics, right? From my wardrobe in terms of, you know, I'm bichromatic. I've got black clothes and white clothes. That's it. So that's what I use. I don't have to think about it. My house is simplified, so it actually makes life there easy. I don't have to look for what I need. I don't have excess things which are going to be messy. If I need something, I don't have it, I'll get it. If something I have I don't use, I'll give it away. So I operate like this. And what that does, because, you know, my life outside the circle of control which I've established is as chaotic as everybody else's. I can't control the outside world. Things will happen. Crisis, work stuff, unexpected things, whatever. But what happens is because I am not operating to the absolute capacity of my brain to handle things every single day, because my home life is so controlled, I actually have the headspace required to deal with the extra stuff. Sure, it's stressful. Sure, I'll get stressed. For sure, I will feel that stress. It's not going to push me over the edge where I lose control of my emotions, I lose control of my thinking. And when those two things happen, the brain senses that it's a threat. It doesn't understand that it's an abstract threat or an emotional threat. Because it understands it's a threat, it goes into panic mode, which is survival. It shuts down all the high analytical parts of it because they're energetically expensive. And it's preparing your body for action when really what you need is your brain to take a step back and analyze things and see what the situation is and find a path through it. And you haven't got those resources. So by making sure that I have the margin required, the space required to take on the extra load of a crisis without going over the edge, that is what makes me resilient. And that is built intentionally. It's the strategy I apply.
Oh, I love that because I tend toward that too. I thought, I just like being organized because my mind is full of chaos or something. But it makes so much sense, and you don't have to expend that energy to go find X. You know, like because it's always in the same place. Like I really subscribe to that, and I think it saves me a lot of mental. You know, like you were saying, we only have so much during the day. And if you're constantly searching for things, it's not going to serve you. mentally.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, a simple thing is like choosing your clothes in the morning. And you have to think, okay, you have to coordinate outfits. You have to think, if you actually have a lot of clothes to deal with, you need to think what choice you're going to make, what context it's going to be seen in, how it's going to be seen in terms of the fashion of the day, who you're going to meet, who's going to judge you for what you're wearing. And this is before you even started your day, right? You have all these things in your head.
This is resonating. Okay, David, this is resonating with me. I have too many clothes. But you know what? Getting my body in a shape where all the clothes fit, massive time saver, massive, like that helps my mental energy because I like fashion, right? I like expressing myself through fashion. Yes.
And that's, that process of yours actually is even better because if you physically fit and your clothes fit and you don't have to worry about that, you give yourself an extra boost. You start the day.
You do. It's fun. Right? It becomes more fun and like what I'm wearing now. I know I'm going to meet someone, you know, whatever. And I was like, it was just more fun. And when I wasn't in I gained some weight from life events and coping eating and things like that, and that I've now lost. But when I was in that, it was just like the stress I would feel, you know, and like I can understand the appeal of adopting a uniform, basically, which I live with somebody who dresses like that. His closet is all black shirts, and then he'll order more that look exactly the same, you know, which I think is very appealing, and it really does cut out this mental energy that you're expending. I completely get it. Yes.
Yeah. So it's creating stuff like that. I mean, the moment we strategize the parts of our life we can control, then we are allowing space for the things we can't control. Mm-hmm. And that's key to navigating life. And, you know, if we talk about navigating life, what are we talking about? We're talking about leading a good, successful life. And you think, well, what does that look like? This is what it looks like. It looks like a series of consistent, small, consistently good choices.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. We talked about community being such a part of that too, of the longevity strategy. Where does giving back fall in that for you? How important is that? Because like you're sharing on podcasts and stories, and that is a form of giving back. And I'm wondering about, helping others and how that falls in for you.
It's absolutely necessary. We all feel a strong need to belong. And we all feel a strong need to contribute. And the reason we feel those needs is because essentially if we don't have anything bigger than ourselves to work with, just focusing on ourselves each day is not enough. And then we begin to lose focus. We don't have a purpose. If we don't have a purpose, then we can't prioritize. And if we can't prioritize, then there's no choice we can make that is wrong and no choice we can make that is right. And what's the saying? It says, if you don't know where you're going, all roads will take you there. A sense of purpose allows us to prioritize. Our priorities then reflect our values. Our values become our character. If we feel we're contributing to something bigger than us, the feelings that it engenders inside us at a practical level, never mind the emotional, suppress cortisol levels in our bloodstream, bring down chronic stress, and reduce inflammation. And these are all positive outcomes. Our biomarkers improve, our blood pressure improves, the sugar levels in the bloodstream improve. Our body is able to manage the energy resources it has better. You mentioned earlier your coping mechanism, which is food, which is for so many people, right? Because it's so easy and it makes us feel good. So we reach for it. But here's what happens. If you, let's say you reach for a donut right now and you're relaxed, your body takes the excess sugar, insulin's going to spike, you're going to basically reduce the blood level sugar in your bloodstream, and that's it. But let's say you're stressed. So your cortisol levels are elevated. This is what's going to happen. Your blood sugar is going to skyrocket. Your fat storage is going to, all the carbohydrates in the bloodstream are going straight into fat. You're putting on weight even though you're not eating any excess calories. Just on that thing alone. Why? Because cortisol levels in the bloodstream, if they go past a certain level, they affect the energy pathways of the body. The body then can't access the normal energy stores that it would rely on, and things go haywire. So something as simple as that becomes really complex if we go out of whack. So having the ability to say, I'm okay within that context where I have a lot of headspace to deal with the stress which I have, and my responses may be not ordinary because I'm dealing with that stress, but then having pushed me over the edge, then your body doesn't go over the edge. That's key to long-term health and longevity. And we know from the blue zones across the world, there are 5 blue zones. And they're called blue zones because people who live there live incredibly long, healthy lives. And they're not socioeconomically rich, out of the ordinary. They actually, some of them, they live, what we call average across the world. They tend to have different diets. For sure, they're all active, but they do different activities. They have different traditions. And here's what they have common in all those things. They have a strong sense of community and a strong sense of purpose in life. And those 2 things allow them to essentially manage the stress they feel over a long period of time. And managing successfully the stress you feel over a long period of time has an enormous amount of positive health outcomes.
Mm-hmm. It really does. Aren't you in a blue zone right now? Aren't you in Greece right now?
Yeah, Ikaria is actually in Greece. Yeah, it's well, not all of Greece. There's one island in Greece called Ikaria. And yeah, that's amazing. When people there live incredibly long. And
how long? How long? Like, what are you?
The average
is 120 a possibility for you right now? Like, or is that a possibility for you and me? 120.
I'd like to think it is. I'm doing everything I can, and I don't. I don't set up a target. I don't say, I want to live to 120 because it's the easiest way to stress yourself out. But what I do say to myself is that as I age every year, I try to be better than the year before. And I carried out, you mentioned how I test myself as a lab rat. I have a number of physical things I do. And also I have the comparison when I was in my 20s and 30s. And I tried to get within the same range. And so far I've been successful.
Wow, so you track all your data. And then from year to year, you're like, okay, it's never too late to start that, right?
Absolutely.
Could I start it this year?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can. Here's the thing. If we don't track something, then we have no actual way of controlling it, changing it, and improving it. But if we track it, then we can actually see how it goes. We can understand it better. We can understand the parameters. We can understand all the variables. We can play around with them to get to the outcome we want. So tracking is, it's one of the things which I strongly suggest.
What do you track? Is there a list in your book of things that are good to track, or
there isn't, because it's different for everybody depending on their goals. But within what you're trying to achieve, let's say somebody's trying to achieve an ideal weight and an ideal strength for their particular requirements. So let's say they want to be that weight and they want to be able to do X number of push-ups or lift X number of kilograms, X number of times. Okay. So now you think, okay, what's my training? You need to track it every single day. Because you don't remember what you did yesterday, never mind a year ago. But you need to be able to say, what did you do a year ago this day? What did you do a year ago the same day a year before? How did you perform at the end of that year? What was different? What changed? What was your diet like? So I track pretty much everything. Maybe.
Yeah. I have tracked my weight and measurements since about 2007. Okay. And I have a little notebook that I just keep it in just to and I know what I was eating and I know kind of how I was living and when I was healthy and when I wasn't. There's a couple in there, a couple of years in there that aren't even tracked, when I was I fell off. But I really feel inclined to start tracking, how much I'm lifting and to see my patterns there and my growth, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I would say about weight, and I say this for everybody, whether a man or woman, is that it's an indicator. It's a very poor one, but it's a very easy to access one. Okay, why is it a poor one? Because our weight may fluctuate for very many different reasons. It may fluctuate because we have water retention. It may fluctuate because we have a slightly bit more inflammation in our body, depending on the training we did or what we're going through. It may fluctuate because of the time of the year. So, all those things so if we shouldn't be using it as a hard measure we're using it as a guideline. So if you fluctuate daily, plus or minus 1 kilogram, that's fine.
Yeah, I know. And I know all that. I've just been brainwashed by American culture, I think. And like, I do know those things, right? But God, it's hard to overcome sometimes. And I'm like, I will still subscribe to the number on the scale, and even though I know all the things, right? I mean, it's just breaking patterning.
It's the power of the external world. The external world, because we're social animals, because our behavior because we're programmed to learn by watching others around us, understanding what's acceptable behavior, and repeating that acceptable behavior. That's how we become social animals which build, cities and countries and civilizations. At the same time, at an individual level, receiving all the information and accepting it because we think that's the norm for our fitness, which is unique to us, is a no-no. We should be able to say, okay, sure, everybody may be measuring their weight and weighing themselves and saying, okay, I need to be that weight for my height. That's nonsense. If you're exercising, you shouldn't be that. If you're doing some other activity, you shouldn't be that. If you have a particular diet, you shouldn't be that. You should just use weight as a generic guideline. If you see a massive fluctuation over years and you say it's going up and down by perhaps 5, 10 kilograms, that's a signal that something has to change. But if we're looking at fluctuation of a kilogram per day going up or down, that's perfectly normal. We should be able to accept that.
Yes. And I've gotten better at it for sure. So yes, agreed. We all need but I think, sometimes we need a little talking to remind ourselves that we are just us, and what's right for us is not going to apply to everyone. So absolutely. What does a typical day look like for you, David? Like, what are your non-negotiables in the morning or evening? And tell me kind of how that looks for you. I'm curious.
Okay, that's an interesting one. The non-negotiable part for me is exercise. Anybody who's read Built to Last will say on chapter 2 that I came across exercise as a mood modifier for me. I had a kind of unsettled childhood. I had the option perhaps to drink, smoke, take drugs, engage in antisocial behavior. I didn't do any of those things because I discovered exercise and I channeled all my angst into it. So that's my coping mechanism. If I get stressed, I need to run. If I have a bad day, really bad day, when I'm, I need to hit a heavy bug to just get tired. And that works for me. I don't suggest that for everybody else, right? Because within that context, things can also become abusive. You can go too far. And, and there were times in my life when I did that. I held down a really high power job. I trained 25, 30 hours a week because I was competing, and I slept like 4 hours a day. Okay, it's not a good thing to do, but you can do it, right? But if you're not careful. And that's why I don't advise people to sort of take things to extremes. So my day, non-negotiable for me is always exercising once or twice a day. I usually do it twice, in the morning and at night. Depending on the day I have, sometimes I'll settle for once, giving myself that grace. Mm-hmm. But I'll do it every single day, right? And depending on what I'm doing and how difficult it is, or depending on where I am, sometimes I used to travel, I will change my exercise. I may go for a long walk and maybe walk 10, 15 kilometers, listening to music perhaps, but it's still exercise. So I haven't stopped, but I'm not doing anything super energetic. So that's one non-negotiable. Second non-negotiable is I will always read for about 20 minutes a day.
Nice.
I have a stack of books to get through because I buy more books than I read. They need to be read because there's stuff there which I need to know. So I force myself to read 20 minutes regardless of how hectic my day is. And the third thing is I always have at least 40 minutes a day when it's just me talking to my wife.
Oh.
She's my best friend in many ways. Just creating that time is absolutely necessary. It grounds me. So everything else is fluid.
Yeah. What are you reading right now?
It won't make sense to a lot of people, I'm reading about quantum gravity.
Cool.
I can explain it. Of
Yeah,
all
sure.
the field, okay, we have electromagnetism and we have electricity. And of all the field forces, gravity is the one that doesn't have an opposite, right? We have gravity, which keeps us on the planet. We don't have anti-gravity, which will lift us off the planet without any kind of effort. In theory, we should. We've been looking at this for quite some time. And there's a theory in quantum mechanics which is trying to reconcile gravity, which is a phenomenon we experience in the macro world, with the quantum dynamics of the micro world. And if we manage to do that, then we're going to find, the particle, which gives what's called graviton, which allows us to create its opposite. And then we'll be able to, it's magic. But
I am so not smart enough for that, but that is super fascinating. I wish I was. Like, I understand these concepts kind of, and then I'm just like, damn it, I wish I was smarter. So that's incredible. Wow.
I'm reading and I feel stupid. So there you go.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. You're not, but thank you. But you know what? It's all levels, right? We can always go to the next level and be like, oh, now this is really intense. And even just infinite smallness always just blows my mind. Everything blows my mind. But like that one really gets me. Like big, yeah, but when you just go, I can cut that in half and cut that particle in half and that particle and a gravitron, like what? Yeah. Anyway, sorry, we got off on a tangent.
No, it feels like magic even to me, right? So there you go.
It is, yeah. It's awesome. So, well, what did we miss? What did we miss that maybe you really wanted to cover today? Or is there anything you just want to leave people with before we go today?
Absolutely. When it comes to fitness, I always say you need to do three things. Make it personal. Make it actually mean something for you. Don't do it because the outside world tells you to do it. You'll do it for a while, you're going to drop it, then you're going to feel guilty and go back again. This is not a good place to be. So make it personal for you. And once you made it personal, then make it possible. Work out what it is you need to do to make it easy to do or easier to do. And finally, make it persistent. Work out what it is that will allow you to do it day after day without too much effort, without too much thinking, and that will completely change your life, change your mind, change the way you view everything.
And that can apply not just to fitness, but to anything. Like if you want to write a book or if you want to create anything, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. So excellent advice. David, thank you so much for being here today. How can everybody, I'll have everything in the show notes, but if you could also share how everyone can find you.
Absolutely. You can find me at davidamerland.com. I put a lot of studies that come out. I bring them out, I link to them, and then I put a little note to explain what they are, and then you can just go and read them and understand them a little bit better. And there's a little bit of context to make them easy to digest. I put out blog articles as well. If you Google me, you'll find all my socials.
Lovely. And they're all in the show notes as well, so anyone can find you very easily. So thank you so much for all you shared today. And, here's to living to 100 and who knows what, 120,
Absolutely.
125. So yes, all the best to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you so much for being here today. That was amazing. I really enjoyed talking to him. What a nice guy, and what a nice, even way of explaining things. I feel like the pendulum has swung, into you have to do all this stuff 15 years ago or 20 years ago. And now I think we've swung back to this very balanced way of looking at things, that do what you can and take small steps and get more consistent and build what you want to build. I feel like when I talked to our functional nutritionist, Risa Grew, last fall, that's the way she was. It's not all or nothing. And so many times we can be like, well, I'm a failure because I ate a bag of chips or whatever it is. I'm speaking for myself there. Or whatever it is, right? And it's not this all or nothing. It's over time, have you improved? Like Justin and I were talking about, the progress isn't exactly linear, or, it just doesn't go in a straight line. It is up, down, up, down, up, down. And I think that that's just so crucial to remember, that when we look back where we've come in a year, track that progress, because you're going to be able to say, oh my gosh, I've come this far. I'm 95 and I've shaved a whole second off my 60-yard sprint. That's so amazing. Or 60-meter, whatever it was. Oh my gosh, I'm still tripping that he has a 90-year-old, 95-year-old sprinting. Wow. Anything's possible, guys. Anything. So keep going. You know what? We're built to last. How cool is that? Like, I'm very here for this. This is like, I feel like doing these episodes too and talking to all these people and getting a more balanced view has, and embracing that nonlinear progress that goes up and down. I feel like it's reset my mental state and made me able to not only accept myself better, but just make better progress and feel better in my 50s. Like, I think it's working. It's working. Oh, gosh. Okay. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here today. You're a badass, total badass. Like, just us showing up and learning this stuff, it's sinking in. It's sinking in, and we're going to make progress together. Yes. 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 So I'd love to hear what little steps you're taking. Always, you can reach out to me anywhere. Everything's in the show notes, all the links, everything. If you want to get on the newsletter list, if you haven't yet, or if you just want to send me a DM or whatever it is, please do, or comment on YouTube. I would love to hear from you and hear what you thought and what your greatest takeaway was from his conversation or all that he shared today. So thank you, David Amerland. Thank you to you for being here. You are a fucking badass. Keep shining bright. I love you so much. Till next time. Thank you so much for being here. Please rate, review, and follow us. And we'd love to hear your feedback. Keep shining bright.